What podcast publishers can learn from the precedent set by programmatic ads and other advertising channels. That's what we're talking about today on Sounds Profitable, Ad Tech Applied, with me, Brian Barletta.
And me, Ariel Nissenblatt.
Thanks to Podsights for sponsoring this week's episode. Podsights, podcast advertising insights and attribution built for advertisers, loved by publishers. Go to podsights.com for more information.
Brian, we've got a great episode here today. You are going to be speaking with Jordan Bentley, but before we get into demand-side platform and what that means for listeners and for podcasters, let's do a little check-in. What have you been listening to lately? What podcasts have been in your ear holes?
So I've been falling down the audio drama and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Midnight Burger is still my favorite, my go-to. I burned through Brimstone Valley Mall, and then I followed one of the actors on there to an older podcast that I cannot believe I never heard about, Ars Paradoxica. And it's a 3-season, 36 episode time travel based podcast, and it's absolutely blown my mind. And I really think it's going to be the first podcast that I've listened to again. I'm absolutely going to start again from the beginning and check out the whole thing. What about you? What have you been listening to?
Well, I have been listening to Wild Boys from Chameleon Campside Media. It's amazing. It's coming out weekly and it's a limited series. And I feel like the precedent for the past few years has been to drop all episodes of limited series at once. But this one is coming out weekly and it is really doing a great job with cliffhangers. So I am completely captivated by it. The story has many twists and turns. I very much recommend it. It's sort of true crime, not so much on the crime side. So it's really investigative. It's great. And also I love Canada and it takes place in Canada.
Heck yeah, I'll have to check it out. So let's dig in for this week. I'm really excited about this one. You know, as we're moving into Sounds Profitable, Ad Tech Applied, my focus is I want to talk to people who have something that me and you can then break down and talk about how podcasters in the business side, in the ad tech advertising side of it, the non-microphone side of it, can apply that information, because I think so many things are ad tech or can be translated to ad tech. This one is super nerdy. And what do you think about the interview?
This one is super nerdy. I had to listen to this interview twice because there is so much in here that I wanted to make sure I had an understanding of it before I came on to chat with you about it. And also because it's the kind of interview that doesn't seem like it is advising. It doesn't seem like advice per se, but if you really break it down, you can learn how to use these techniques and tools to better yourself as a podcast publisher. So first, tell me, how did you get in touch with Jordan Bentley?
Yeah, I think we actually met over Twitter. I think I was arguing with somebody else about advertising in podcasting and how programmatic affects it. And we just kind of bonded over a topic on there. And we're just, he came on as a sponsor shortly after. But it was really interesting. My Twitter used to be just following Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing accounts. And in the 18 months of Sounds Profitable, I've started following more ad tech and news and technology and podcasting people. And so I've fallen into ad tech Twitter, and it's very fun. So Jordan comes from that side. That's how we connected there. But Jordan runs a company called AudioHook, which is a demand side platform, and it is all focused on podcasting and other forms of audio, being able to enable buyers to access that inventory across multiple different inventory sources.
Brian, break it down for us. Who is the customer of a demand side platform like AudioHook, and how would they use it?
So a demand side platform allows someone to buy into inventory, right? So it is primarily a buying tool. The other side of that is a supply side platform. So DSP for demand and SSP for supply. Supply is the publisher side of it. And so this now allows a buyer, an agency, a brand, anybody over there to spend money on inventory that the DSP is connected to or can be connected to. The publisher sets up the SSP relationship, right? So in podcasting, the main ways to do that right now are through directly. You could manage it yourself through a VAST tag, a little bit more complicated. But platforms like AdsWiz and Omni Studio's Triton Digital will allow you to represent your inventory as an SSP and individually connect with DSPs. Programmatic is definitely confusing here, but if that is your goal, to interact directly and manage those programmatic deals, those are your two avenues today.
So what I found interesting about your conversation is that demand side platform companies are not just in the audio space. They are a leftover kind of infrastructure from previous types of advertising, and they'll continue there, and they'll continue in the podcast/audio space. But what is unique about AudioHook?
Yeah, they're focusing specifically on podcasting, which is tough, and audio overall, but podcasting is difficult because the way the programmatic advertising works is it's all real time, right? A bunch of calls are made out to see what ads are available, and in real time, the platform responds back. The ad is won or doesn't win, and then shortly after that, in seconds we're talking, an impression is fired to confirm not only did it win, but it was placed. In podcasting, it's possible for it to take longer, not because the time that they receive the ad to the time that the listener receives the episode with the ad in it is that long. It's really not. We're talking a few seconds, maybe minutes at that regard. But it's the hosting platform, the ad serving platform has to fire the tracking pixels. So every platform does that differently. And some of them can take hours to fire those tracking pixels, which means that podcasting has to be handled in a different way than digital display, than streaming audio, streaming video, basically every other type of media that we can measure in real time. Podcasting, because there's no framework for how the hosting platforms have to respond back,